So what can we learn from today's UTMB by Jim? Like for me, like incredible athlete, incredible what he's done in the Western States, getting it completely dialed in, going the wrong way, having a mishap, coming back the next year with all that fire in his belly and just making it happen. And I think 14:09 is the record, and it's well away from like 30 to 45 minutes away from what most Western States are winning. And then today, after kind of a few years of going and not getting it right and sort of maybe underestimating the course, maybe having to change his style a little bit. It's very bouncy, very long stride length, and that doesn't work so well. It's not so efficient on technical terrain, but in certainly in these types of mountains in around Chamonix and around Mont Blanc. And then making it happen and fully committing. And I think that's the thing, the biggest lesson today and this week, as we've kind of known this is going to happen, that even if Kilian shows up today, it's going to be the way Jim has handled the last couple of hours. He's still bouncing, there's still a spring in his step. If you look at Zach Miller's position behind, or Zach Miller's style behind, it's very much more laboured, and I know there's a complete difference anyway from the get-go in both of their styles, and Zach's still looking strong, but Jim has just got that he's in a flow, and he has been for the last 6 or 7 hours, since there was an attempted take by one of the other guys further down. I want to say Peter, but I may be wrong, but the biggest lesson is, especially now, if you want to compete at the very, very top of running, ultra running, and in the mountains, trail running is especially where everybody can still compete. If you want to be there or thereabouts in the top sort of 3, top 5, the top 10 within a serious race, then you've got to fully commit, and you've got to spend a long time on the course. And this is now the difference. We're going to see a change now, and we saw a change probably 20 years ago where things started to get serious with Kilian doing so well. Maybe 15 years ago, I think, was his first win. I want to say 2008. I may be wrong, but very young, sort of when he came up, and all of a sudden it's definitely an outlier. It's a bit like watching Courtney now, who's just dominating, like more than an hour ahead of second place, and there's a big fight for second place. Chinese and Katie, I think it is, in second or third, and they're very, very close, within a minute and a half of each other. So you've got that kind of outlier that you often see in sports in Kilian, and I think Jim is that person. Like, he's an outlier. He's dominated at Western States. He's dominated in other races. He's gone to the American marathon trials and run a quick marathon, being completely going for it, being going for the win in the American trials, trying to run sort of 2:10, 2:11, and the wheels sort of coming off and running 2:15 on a bad day for Jim, running a very quick time, I think 18 seconds away from the world record at the time for 100k. So really versatile over different surfaces, but just wanted to hone in. For some reason in his head, the UTMB was the one that he wanted, and that's meant him moving across to France, getting on those trails, or those types of trails, every single day. Ski mountaineering, committing to that kind of culture, getting embedded with the local people, and sponsors have allowed him to do that, and obviously being a professional athlete allows you to make that move. It's possible for anybody now, with remote working and with kind of being able to set up your own business so easily. It's possible for anybody, if that's your passion, to get dialed in and get, like it happened to me when I sort of got obsessed with racing Granada, Subida, Pico Valletta. I knew that I needed, in order to deal with the heat, in order to deal with the gradient, in order to deal with a relentless hill for 42k uphill, in order to deal with the altitude, in order to deal with the cold weather and wind at the top, you've got to be training in those conditions, and the best possible conditions is actually going to be the race. And so that was essentially my kind of that was my UTMB, and I knew that if I could get better in that race, I would get better in all races, because that was the hardest race I could possibly think of at the time, because it's like relentlessly 50k uphill. And I love that Jim's done that. I love that he's gone across, and he's just, you know, he's moved his him and his wife now across there, and just gone all in. And I love that so much, when somebody's passionate and they care so much about it, because it separates you away from the crowd. And these other people, obviously Courtney has done the double at Hard Rock and Western States, and she's going to win this, which is absolutely mind-blowing for somebody to win 3 100 milers in not a year, like a short space of time, sort of July, I think. I want to say June's Western States, I think. So then June, like such a small time, like basically the summer, 3 100-mile races, and not just winning, but setting course records and killing it. And that's an outlier for you. And she still looks smooth. She said she was tired before the race, but she still looks smooth. And yeah, I was just listening to the commentary then, and it's kind of like, it's almost for the commentators as if it's all wrapped up with 2 hours to go. It's still, you know, 10 miles, 16 kilometers in the mountains. Anything can still happen. So it's not over until it's over. But yeah, I love that, and from both of them, and their kind of mentality is different. I think we're going to see a big step up now. Big sponsors are coming into the arena. Adidas are going big. Nike will always be there or thereabouts, no matter how big the team is. They will always have strong people. You know, Solomon, Hawker sponsoring the whole thing. They're constantly serious about it. And it's a case of getting your athletes there early. And if that's what your main aim is, to be, if your strategy is to win UTMB or to get podium in UTMB, then you've got to be thinking about moving out there and moving on to similar terrain, and that's got to be sort of European, northern Spain, sort of that area in Italy where Marco Olmo used to train a lot, and then exactly where the race is being run at the moment. Why not base yourself there, like for most of the year, or at least after the winter, when the snow's melting and you can actually do something. Anybody who's doing well there has got a huge advantage by being out on the course. So if you're coming from somewhere like this and you're trying to compete with people that actually live and breathe on those trails all day long, it's not going to happen for you. You're not going to be able to compete. You may be able to finish, you're going to be beat up, you may be able to finish, but you're not going to be able to compete. So it's that kind of element of specificity that you've got to have tuned in. You've got to know what your strengths are, you've got to know how to develop your weaknesses, and obviously what they are. And then you've got to go all in. If you really want to compete these days at the top of trail running, of ultra running, can't be a part-time gig anymore. You got to be all in.